Welcome to Quiltripping Travel with Rose, a Big Blend radio podcast featuring award-winning travel writer and photographer, Rose Palmer. So everyone, today we're going to go quilt tripping to London. Oh yes, this is one of the most famous cities in the world. And Rose, I know, loves London. And I think, it's one of those iconic stops when you're going here, there, and everywhere. And then it's really cool to go spend some time. One thing I want to do in London is I want to go on the Jack the Ripper tour. I'm just saying, I heard there is such a thing and have not done that. Have you done that, Rose? Have you?
No, I have not done that, but it doesn't surprise me that you want to do that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, are you going to make him a quilt for his dead bodies, or that sounds terrible, right? That's,
but I will look into that. And this current trip coming up, I've already got everything planned out, but I think I'll put that on my list for the next time, because that's the beauty of London. There is always something new to do, because they've just always coming up with new activities and entertainment and things to see and places to go. So it's never boring or tiring visiting London.
Yeah. I mean, you've done all kinds. I've got to link everyone in the episode notes for Rose's articles, and you can see her pictures. And, but it seems like you have had a lot of fun in London for sure.
Yes.
Now you're going to go there. So tell everybody where you're on your way, what you're doing. So people can follow you on social media and everything.
Yes, so I'm heading to London. I'm leaving Saturday, and I'm heading a few days early before I get on another cruise. This time from Southampton, which is a couple of hours to the south of London, and it's the port where the cruise ships leave from the UK. And I'm heading on a Baltic cruise, so heading into colder weather and heading into the Scandinavian countries. So going over to Copenhagen and Stockholm and Helsinki and all those places. So that'll be my topic for next month after I've done all this. But beforehand, I'm spending a couple of days in and around London, and then when I get back, I'm spending a weekend there as well before I come home, because it's just nice. Like I said, there's always something to do.
When you go to London, are there places, and like you're saying, that there's always so much to do that you haven't experienced yet if you've been there a few times, but are there places that you want to go back to, that you just go, every time I go to London, I have to go here. It's a thing I must do.
So one of my favorites, and the first thing I always look into when I'm planning a trip to London is I love Royal Albert Hall and seeing some type of a performance or a concert there. So one of the first things I do is I look to see what they've got going on during my stay there, and is there even something going on in terms of a performance, and is it something that I'm interested in? And then I just like walking along the Thames. From like St. Paul's toward Big Ben. It's just such a pretty walk. It's people are out and about, strolling, families, couples, tourists. There's restaurants, there's bars, there's the boats on the river. It's kind of, to me, that's kind of the quintessential London, is seeing all of that.
So that's really, I love that, because it's the people watching thing.
It is,
for me.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And then I have some of my favorite restaurants in the whole world are in London. So I try and do one of them each time I go. So during COVID, I discovered Chef Yotam Ottolenghi. He's Israeli, but London is now home for him and has been for a long time. And he started with opening up like a little deli cafe years ago with typical Middle Eastern type dishes, and has expanded to a number of different deli cafes throughout the London area, as well as two wonderful sit-down restaurants called Nopi and Rovi. And I cook some of his dishes, and I love going to his restaurant when I can and being served some of his, authentic food. But I have to remember to make my reservations way ahead of time.
Oh,
Yes.
so speaking of food, the famous English high tea, afternoon
Oh,
tea.
yes. So that's another thing. Yes, that's one of the other things that I do at least once when I'm in London is an afternoon tea somewhere. Now, my favorite is Fortnum and Mason, and I've done their afternoon tea a couple of times, and I think it's the best that you can get. There's only 50 teas to choose from, and they have, the typical little sandwiches and wonderful scones and then the little cakes. But as if that's not enough, then they come with this cart of large cakes and pastries, and you get to choose one if you still have room. And if you don't, they send you home with a goodie bag
What?
with like some lemon curd and some jam and, whatever cake you didn't get to finish.
Mm.
So it's a wonderful experience, but that's another one that you need to book, and I have to book early if I'm going to do that.
Well, this is really good tips. Now, wait, no, I know that some of the afternoon teas also include champagne. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, you can have champagne if you're a champagne drinker, or you can have cocktails. And obviously the price then reflects those
Yeah.
changes.
Do they spike the tea ever? Do they
Do
ever
they
give you?
spike the tea?
Yeah. Do they ever give you happy
No,
tea?
I don't think I've
Oh, they're
had
not going to break
that.
from tradition on that. That goes into the cocktail
Yeah.
category.
I mean, I think the only
Okay.
question is, do you take milk or not? And I don't.
Okay. Mm.
And there's always the question of milk first or tea first. And I think there's
Tea
some
first.
etiquette around that. But I don't take milk or cream in my tea, so
I
it's
don't
it's
either. Yeah. Now, because I've heard also that a gold rim around the lip of the cup, like that's a good thing to
is it
have.
okay?
Yeah, apparently it enhances the
Okay,
tea tasting
does it?
experience.
Okay, all right.
Well, I
Well, I'll
mean,
have
if
to
you're going
try
to be
that.
royal,
Yes, yes, yes.
now I've got that song, I'm going to be royal, in my head, but it's such an iconic thing, but it's really interesting about the whole tradition of it too. But to do that when you're in London and, just everyone, it's so interesting because here we have places that do tea and it's like we're
Mm,
recreating, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
then a lot of
they're
times it's
okay.
British people or Scottish people doing it, running it, but you want to be there. I want to be
Yes,
in Wales, Scotland, any England that's doing it. I want to be there. And it's that as a kid, I remember those carts of, you know, oh my gosh, scones and all the treats,
all the
the
goodies. Yes,
meringues, the
yes.
meringues, the
Ooh,
meringues with the
yes.
chewy center.
Mm-hmm.
Light and fluffy. And then you get to that. You just, as a kid, you want to get to the chewy center, and you had to behave in those
Yes,
places.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
the the service is always wonderful. And every major hotel in London, I think, offers afternoon tea, and then there's also tea rooms. If you just Google afternoon tea in London or high
Mm.
tea in London, you'll get a boatload of choices. But each time I go, I try and do a new place, or like I said, I've gone to Fortnum and Mason a couple of times because I do love it. Plus, it's centrally located, and it's a beautiful store. I mean, if you've never
Mm.
been shopping to Fortnum and Mason in London, or at least I should say window shopping, maybe not actual shopping. It's their food displays are just incredible. They're so beautifully presented that you have to just go to see it. And then, of course, I always leave with a container of tea because I'm a tea drinker.
Mm. Well, okay. So now we got a little bit of food covered, tea, a little champagne, cocktails if you prefer. I do have to ask you, when you have
Yes.
scones, right? Do you want the cheese scone, the savory, or do you want the sweet?
Oh, ooh, that's a tough choice. I like
You
them
could
both,
do
but I think
both.
I do go for the sweet because I like to load on that strawberry preserve.
Oh, no one does it as good as England. Like
No,
they have actual
with
strawberries in their
yes,
strawberry
yes.
preserves and the marmalade you cannot beat.
Oh, the orange
Oh,
marmalade, and then the real clotted cream. I mean, it really is different from butter. There's
oh
just
yeah.
something about that clotted cream with, with just a big dollop of strawberry preserve on a nice warm scone. Oof, oh, I can't
You
wait.
know what? I kind of miss living in England right now because, I remember what we called it jam, right? The strawberry jam was just
Hmm.
real, and it's just real. Like you could even taste the seeds of the strawberries.
Yes,
Like
yes,
so in the marmalade, there's nothing. I mean, the marmalade. I know South Africa did it really well too because it had colonialism, right?
right.
So they did it really well as well. So it's just there are certain things that you'll never not keep wanting in your life, and
Yes.
Marmite is one of them. But I don't
Oh, I
know
don't
if
know
you.
about that.
Oh, I do. I do. I have jars of Marmite. I have jars of
Okay.
my Marmite we travel with. Yes, very good. Sorry, I know that's you were very quick. I don't know about that. That was a very quick one. Very quick response, Rose. So I think she's going for the sweet strawberry
Yes, I have
preserves
a
here.
sweet tooth.
Okay.
I have a big sweet tooth.
She's not into the Marmite Vegemite side of the world. But I want
Mm,
to go into, you sent me some, going through your footage and everything on your website, and everyone, um, really go to the links in the episode notes or go to quiltripping.com, and that's quilt, or you could go quiltripping if you want, because
yes.
she does quilt. I want to go to getting around London because I think, when you think about big cities, like I think of going to New York, like I feel like I need to leave the car somewhere and fly in and then go by public transit. Like
Hmm.
I don't feel like I should try to drive in New York City. I may need a drink before I drive, and that's not
Yeah, I've done
acceptable.
it
That's
once
not
or
a good thing.
twice out of necessity,
Oh,
and I'd rather get in a cab and put my life in the hands of a cab driver than
yeah,
driving it
they know
myself.
it. They
They
know
know
it
it.
better
Yep,
than any of
yep,
us, right? And
yep.
so London, well, England is so good about transportation.
Yes,
Like you could live in England and never own a car,
yes,
you know? You could live in New York, same thing.
yeah.
So getting around London, did you do the double decker buses?
Well, the double decker buses, and then just the metro, the tube, subway, whatever you want to call it, um, is just it crisscrosses the whole city, and it's so easy to use. And I especially like it because it's easy to use from Heathrow Airport, so you don't have to spend all this money to get from the airport, which is about 45 minutes to almost to an hour outside of the city, depending on how you get there and on traffic and all that. You can just hop on the train, and it's there's the express train that goes to Paddington Station, which is in the center of the city, or you can
And
take
it's named after Paddington Bear.
it's named after Paddington
Is
Bear. So
it
you can,
really?
yes, yeah. Well,
Is
or
it really? I
I
just
don't
made
know,
that
but
up.
but Paddington, or if Paddington Bear is named after it, I don't remember, but I'll have to look into that. But then there's also the Piccadilly line, which I use if I'm not in a hurry, I tend to take because it's sort of for me it tends to be the main train line, the main tube line that gets me to the places that I want to go in London in general. And it's just so easy. And then Google makes it really easy. Google Maps, if you've never used the function on Google Maps for the train icon, so you put in
Oh,
your in Google Maps, you put in your okay, I'm here, I want to go there, and here in the U.S. we're used to looking at the little car, right? And it shows you how to get there by car. Or maybe if you're in a city, you might do the walking one with the little
yeah.
person
Hmm.
icon. But in between those two, there's a train or a bus icon, and it'll show you how to get from where you are to where you want to go via public transportation. And it'll tell you where the stop is, what the next train is, how many stops there are, what the stops are, what stop you have to get off on. And it'll also, if it's one of these huge stations with 10 different exits, it'll tell you, like which exit you need to go to. It's a wonderful feature. I used it everywhere in Tokyo, and it just made it so much easier. And I'm planning on using it in London. I used to have a separate app for the London Underground, which I would use in that way, but now I'm just going to use the Google Map feature because it makes it foolproof to let me know how I can get from point A to point B on the underground. And it's
I
and then
didn't know
you can just
that at
tap your
all.
credit card. So they used to have something called an Oyster card, which they still have. And because I have one, I tend to use it, and I just load it up with some money. And that way I don't have to worry about pulling out my credit card to tap in and then pulling it out again and tap out. But if you don't have an Oyster card and you don't want to pay to buy one, and because you're not sure if you ever use it again, you can just use your credit card to tap in and tap out.
Wow.
And that's the beauty of traveling in London too, is you don't need cash. Last time I was there, I think I took out, some pounds, and I really didn't need to use them. And, as towards the end of the trip, I needed to get rid of them, and I did. And I think in the end, I ended up using them at Heathrow to buy some chocolate for my grandsons. But honestly, everything is credit card. I bought a gelato for like £2 at in an ice cream shop, and they didn't blink an eye at just tapping, with the card. It's so easy.
That I just want to go back on that because that's a really good tip, especially for first timers going overseas. Like honestly, when we have had some very interesting experiences using credit cards in other countries, and like honestly, when we lived in Mexico and helped a family member go through a medical procedure and realized that our credit card bill was getting additional charges
Huh.
from Mexico for using a
Oh,
credit card. Oh,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
This is way, way, way back when.
Okay.
So what was like a few thousand went into the tens. And
Ooh,
we don't want to go into that conversation.
no.
But it was, oh, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
And because we didn't realize, we were just really naive. It was an emergency that happened. And by the way, everybody, I don't care where you're going, get that insurance. Okay.
Yes,
Don't be
definitely.
like what happened to Nancy and I, who decided, oh, we'll take care of this for a family member. And, that was a very costly lesson. Don't do that to people. Do not do that to people. You can get medical insurance for when you're traveling. You can get traveler's insurance. You can get
Yes.
airlifting and all kinds of
Yes.
stuff. So look at that when you're traveling overseas, because you never know when you end up you could fall and trip and hurt your leg, and your travel insurance will, there's just do it. Okay. Because peace of mind, number one, is really good. But we, silly us, thought, oh, you know, and so they were charging these huge processing fees at that time, and it was very expensive. So, and I forgot about that, going overseas using your credit card. Are there any are they just doing the exchange rate and all of that with credit cards? It's a really good point to look at. Ooh.
So anytime I go, and what's recommended is to always, because you get the choice when you use your credit card, do you want to pay in local currency or American dollars? And for the best exchange rates, the recommendation it always is to leave it in local currency, especially if you have a card that doesn't charge transaction fees. But in our travels here in Western Europe since COVID, honestly, it's they're all about contactless, payment. It's all about they don't want to deal with cash, and some places don't even have the capacity. There were a couple of places that we've traveled to where, when we were in Norway, for example, on a tiny little island, they were like, no, we don't have any cash because we have really no easy way to get it to the bank anymore. So we just do the credit card. So on my cruise, as I said, I'm going to be in the Baltic, and even though they're EU countries, some of them have their own currency. It's not the
Euro.
typical the euro. And I'm not planning on changing any money. I've been traveling with the same €100 in my wallet for the last 3 trips to Europe, and just I have it there as a backup. I don't have to go to the ATM when I land now to get some, to have it in case I need it, because it seems like taxis isn't a problem. Everybody just is content with the credit cards.
Well, so much has changed. COVID did some things that made things a little easier for travelers,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, right? And even
Hmm.
grocery shopping is easier.
Right.
I'm just gonna
Right.
say,
Well,
and
a lot of things, yes.
so there's a lot of positives out of the
Yeah.
negative, right? But going back to looking at the money side of things, I know that London, museums, when you go to a big city, museums are a huge thing. I feel like we're talking about museums on our podcast so much lately, but their value is priceless. A
Hmm.
museum is priceless to education, of course, entertainment, but these when you go to iconic museums, you know, I don't know. It's something that you'll see things on Wikipedia and in a book and everything, but when you go to them, it can change your life.
Yes.
Really, I've heard so many stories on how a museum or a piece of art has changed someone's life where they just jump in and go for it or something. So, the museums, what are they like in London? And, I hear that
Well,
there's some that are free, right? Which is nice.
there are many of the major museums, they are free. So, for instance, the British
Wow.
Museum, which is like their major natural history museum,
Nice.
yeah, free. Victoria and Albert Museum, free. The um, like their science museum and their planetariums. A lot of the major museums, there's no cost to them, and that's just so you could, even though London is not a cheap city to travel to in terms of accommodations these days, you certainly could do a lot of things fairly inexpensively between the parks and walking along the river and the various museums that don't charge entrance fees. You could, easily spend time there and not have to spend too much money. I especially love the British Museum. So before my trip to Egypt, when I was passing through London, and I knew I was going to be going to Egypt within the next year, I made it a point to go to the British Museum because they have a huge Egyptian collection. Their people
Ooh.
were critical in excavating and doing a lot of the archaeology in the early days of Egypt, the the archaeological digs. So I spent quite a bit of time there. Not that I remember much of it now these days, but um, it was an interesting way to kind of for me, and it was a good way to prepare and get a perspective of what they had and some basic understanding of what um, the British archaeologists discovered before I did my trip. And then the
Oh.
Victoria and Albert, um, it's I've heard it called kind of the London's attic. I believe it started as um, a displaying all the various goodies and doodads and things that Queen Victoria and Prince Albert received as gifts from different emissaries and different countries and all that. And I think now it's grown beyond that, but it's another really fun museum to walk around, um, and it's not far from Royal Albert Hall. So
Ooh.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what? As a little girl, how I learned about the Royal Albert Hall was the Beatles singing about it. Anyway, sorry. That's my, I've never been there, but so many
It's such a
people had,
beautiful building. I mean, it's and again, because I'm staying in the city, I'll stay in the Earl's Court area, which is not far from Kensington, where the Royal Albert Hall is, and where Victoria and Albert are museum are. So it's easy to get to. I can, if I have to, I can walk to it. So I can go see a show, and then after the show, I can walk to my hotel. And I can't do that here. I live outside of Philadelphia. I have to drive an hour. I mean, first I have to walk 20 minutes and wait half an hour in line to get out of the parking garage, and then drive an hour home at 11 o'clock at night after a show. But I just I love the fact that I can just get out of the
wow.
building at the end of the evening and either hop on the subway or walk to my hotel so easily.
That is cool. I mean, that is the thing about cities. They are equipped on how to move you around, you know.
Yes, yes.
Um, the other thing too is you can travel out. And that's the other part of it. Like there's gardens, there's
Oh,
castles, right?
oh,
So
there's so
side
much,
trips,
so
yeah.
much.
So
Yes.
when you do go beyond the city, right?
Hmm.
And are there so you know, I haven't been to London since I was in my late teens. Um, it's kind of blurry. So I'm just thinking, you know, not in that way. Well, maybe it
Okay.
was. No, it was on our way from South Africa to here, and we didn't even know what was going on, like for our lives at that time. But, um, you know, it was just an interesting time, and we weren't far from London. We went to see a friend and hung out for a bit, but it wasn't. It was just not a sightseeing time. It was a big life change, a new chapter in your life. You moving
Yes.
countries is a big deal. And it wasn't, it was, we just didn't know what was happening, having to leave South Africa quickly. But, you know, there's so much to experience, but most cities have really unique neighborhoods. So I wanted to ask you about that before we leave London, right? Proper. Um,
Hmm.
there's different neighborhoods, right, to experience that it would be almost a day trip just within neighborhoods, or is it that small of a city that it's not like that? Like, what would you say on the neighborhood
Um,
thing?
so it does have the neighborhoods. Notting Hill, obviously, is a famous one, because of the movie, and Kensington, and so this time around, I'm happened to be there after my cruise. I happened to be there for the Chelsea Flower Show, so that's another
No
neighborhood.
way.
Yes, way.
No
Yes, way.
way. Are you kidding me? You're going
No,
to the
I'm going to
Chelsea?
the Chelsea Flower Show. Finally, this has been on my bucket list for a while,
Oh my
and
gosh.
again, it was something I had to buy my ticket for early once I figured out. So that's really why I'm staying after the cruise. Why I'm staying a couple of days longer is because I want to see the Chelsea Flower Show. um, so yeah, there are quite a few neighborhoods. I can't say that I've spent a lot of time exploring specific neighborhoods. I did one trip. I did go into Notting Hill because of it's such a colorful neighborhood, and it happened to be May, and the wisteria were in full bloom, and so I wanted to walk around and see all the
Ah,
colorful doors and the wisteria in bloom. Um, in general, I'm usually focused on going. I have my list of things that I'm planning on doing and going to see. So it isn't so much about the neighborhoods, but
hmm.
that is a good point. Is there's always something to focus on my future trips. Is pick a different neighborhood, stay there, and just experience it. It's restaurants and it's pubs and it's bars, and um, try and be a little bit of a local for a few days.
Well, isn't it also like people, um, when people move to areas, they tend to move into culturally into the same neighborhoods, right? Like we have in New York, right? There's Jamaica town and stuff like that. I've
Hmm.
not been there, so I don't know what I'm talking about on it, but I do know, right, that we move into the same neighborhoods as our family and our culture, right? From the same countries. I think that's more immigration and in this
Yes,
country than it would be in England, but man, no, because people are moving all over, right? So that to me forms a city in a unique way when you go through the different, um, when you go through all the different kind of neighborhoods. It's going to have
yes,
a different cultural feel, and you get to taste that. And that's my point. You get to
right.
taste that, right?
And that is one of the things I love about London is it's so international these days. It's the UK used to get a bad rap for its food, but that is not the case anymore. There's just wonderful food because of all these international influences, and you can find food and restaurants and street food and trucks and markets with influences and tastes from all over the world.
Mm, mm. Oh, the markets. That's the thing
Mm-hmm.
too about England has markets.
Yes.
Like,
So yeah, one of the best ones is Burroughs Market. That's a fun one to walk around and try and decide where you're going to get your lunch or dinner from.
oh my gosh. So going outside the city,
Hmm.
when you go out, because I know you've done like Windsor Castle, all these castles, Warner Brothers Studio and places like that when you go
Yep.
outside, so you can do day trips. Do you rent a car when you do that or
No,
are,
no,
oh,
no. I've done it two ways. I've done organized tours. There's
oh, cool.
if you don't want to deal with figuring out how to get out there on your own. So, for instance, Hampton Court or Warner Brothers or Windsor. Um, there's you go on to get your guide or Viator, and there's all these organized tours out of London to everywhere within reasonable distance. So I went to Stonehenge. I went to Bath, Stonehenge, and Windsor in one day on a tour. Now it was whirlwind, and we only spent a couple of hours in each. But we did get there. We were first thing in the morning at Stonehenge just as it was opening, so it wasn't busy. And somebody else did the driving, and it was a small group tour. I think there were 6 of us, maybe 8 of us, if that
Oh,
many, in a small, very comfortable van. So you can do it that way. Or if I want to spend more time in a place, then I'll just do it on my own. So Kew Gardens, it's very easy to get to by train, so not subway or underground, but using their train system. And again, you can use Google Maps, or I use for trains when when I used to use the train system, I use the Trainline app to look for schedules and to buy my ticket. But it's very easy to get to some of these places. So I've gone to Kew Gardens on my own by the train. I've gone to Hampton Court, Windsor. These are all very easy day trips. Um, Winchester, Oxford. It's there's so much within a couple of hours train ride out of
mm.
London, and to go and see and spend the day and then come back. I mean, you can easily spend the week in London and not run out of things to see either in the city or surrounding the city, or even longer. I mean, I spent around I think 10 days around Christmas time in December in 2019, and did not run out of things to see or do in the city and
I
around it.
yeah, I mean, but Kew Gardens and the Chelsea Flower Show, seriously. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
want to report back on that. I'm waiting. I'm yeah, I would be
I'll
with
be
bated
posting
breath.
some photos I think on my
I
Instagram, I'm
cannot
sure.
wait. Oh my gosh, that's the best news I've had like for a week. Someone I know is going, I'm just like, you're in royalty now, girl. I'm
Oh,
like,
I don't know
that's
about
amazing.
that. Oh,
No, no, that's exciting. I don't know. I'm just a plant person. So
yeah.
I'm very excited about that for you. So I
Oh,
think we
thank
have
you.
to do a whole show on it. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I want to know every little detail. But yeah, I mean, it's have you ever seen the movie Best of Show about dogs, the dog movie?
No.
Oh, well, they should do one for flower shows.
Okay.
We've done podcasts from like international flower shows and stuff. It's a whole other world. It is. Because it's a competition too. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, it's like the Great Bake Off, right? It's, it is. It's just yeah, you're going to have to report back, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
So do I have to
eh,
do the afternoon tea at the flower show too?
oh,
Because
of
I
course
wasn't
you do.
planning on it. I
And,
do.
and
Okay.
no, you must. You
Oh,
must have
okay.
the tea and then the champagne too, because there's
Oh,
flowers.
okay.
And if there's flowers, champagne exists.
Okay. Okay.
The
Well, I'll have to go
butterflies prefer
online
you to
and
do that.
see if I
Yeah,
can
I
still
think
get
you
a ticket for
must.
that.
If you don't, you're going to be upset with yourself if you
Okay.
didn't do the full Monty.
If I don't do
You've
the
been,
full
you have to do everything you can because,
I'm not doing the full Monty.
well, not that one. I didn't, well, you could wear some flowers if you want, but
uh,
yeah, but anyway, yeah. Well, Anyway, yeah, you could do the full Monty in the flower garden with a glass of champagne. There you go. Sounds
Okay.
good. All right. Well, but Rose, I mean, you are named after a flower,
I am, and yeah, it's
America's national flower.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is America's national flower. Now, if
Okay.
you wear an orange rose, that means you're up to shenanigans. That's playing full Monty.
Oh
Yeah, and
wow.
there's so
Okay.
much history of the rose in this country, and it's how it got to be the national flower goes from the history of the peace rose with America and France and World War II, and that's a whole other story.
Okay.
Oh, I got my world wars messed up again. So sorry for those who are real history buffs if I mess that up. But the history of the peace rose is just it is beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment, and that's how it became eventually our national flower. And there's in fact a Peace Rose Day because of roses. We used to have a test garden for roses.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited. I am so excited for you. This is so cool. And then, but in between this all, you're going on a cruise.
I'm going on a
Oh,
cruise. So it's because we're talking about flowers, one of the things I'm hoping to see when I'm in London is it's the 80th anniversary of the end of World War One,
oh,
and
wow.
or was one. Is that right or no?
Yes, yes, yes. It's World War
Okay,
One. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Definitely. Oh
no,
no,
World
you're
War
right.
Two. I'm sorry, it's World
World
War.
War Two. It is World War. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Anyway,
you're right.
I
Ooh.
can't remember now. I have to go back and look at the information. But
Yeah.
the Tower of London is putting on a huge month-long display of ceramic poppies all around the Tower of London. So like they're going to be like a curtain coming over the wall and then along the grass moat, lining the whole grass moat. They had that back in 2019 as well to celebrate I think 100 years of the end of World War One, and they're doing it again here. I think it's starting here in May and going through November through
Oh,
Remembrance Day. So yeah, again, I'm hoping to get to go see that because
oh.
it was a very moving display, and I think this time around it's even bigger. But no, I think it's World War Two, the end
It
of
is World War
World War
Two.
Two.
Okay,
Yeah.
because as we record this, everyone, yesterday was actually the day of when Berlin fell. And that was April 29th, 1945. So that's the World War II.
Okay.
And that is the Peace Rose, which so it goes with everything you're talking about. It was named and introduced to commemorate the end of World War II. So that was 1945. So
So
yeah,
yeah,
we're 80
so
years. We're
right,
80
80
years.
years. So it
Yeah.
should be a very moving display, and I'll definitely be posting some photos of that as well.
Oh, wow. Whew.
Like I said, there's always something to see and do
I love this.
in the city.
I love our podcast chats. I want to go to a garden with you and drink tea and then champagne.
Okay,
Okay. All right. So if you don't want to drink champagne, I will. We'll do it.
you'll
Nancy will
drink
do it.
mine. Okay, sounds good.
Nancy will do it for you for
Okay.
sure. She'll take care of that. But I still, I remember the second podcast with you and you were on a cruise. Was it the first one? Was it the first or second? And yeah, I think it was the second. On Quiltripping podcast, everyone, every second Thursday, remember, new episodes. And you were on a cruise ship having wine and I was having wine for a wine taste something or
Oh,
other.
the Christmas cruise. Yes, the river cruise.
You were on the cruise and you had gone to a wine tasting and we had
And we,
wine for
yeah.
some other reason, for something we were doing. And we interviewed a winery. And so both of us were like, hello, everybody. This is a fantastic podcast.
Yeah, that one
I
was right
know.
after I had just had this big 5-course meal with a special wine pairing, and so I was feeling quite good.
I know. And you're going to call in from another cruise ship on one of our other podcasts on the Big Blend shows. So I'm looking forward to that. because you never know what's going on with Rose on a cruise ship. Sometimes she travels with a sewing machine, we've learned. I do not know anybody else who does this. Are you taking it with you? I have to ask.
Not on this one because it's international. There's not a lot of sea days. There's a lot of port days. So I don't have a lot of free time. I'll be, getting off the ship quite a bit and exploring. But the cruise afterwards, which is when I think we'll be recording that one, will be in a 3-week cruise through Alaska. And that one does have a lot of sea days because it's leaving from San Francisco. And it's also a U.S. destined port, so which makes it a little bit easier
Rose,
for me too.
I cannot keep up with you. So basically you're leaving and not coming home.
Well, I'll be home for a little bit. I'm, gotta do my laundry and pay the bills and catch up on my grandkids and my husband.
Oh yeah, you have grandkids and a husband. That's a different story. See, otherwise I'm going to say you just be like Nancy and I just keep going. You could cruise full time through the way you travel. I could see that, but yeah, grandkids and husband, family, kids. Yeah, that's all.
So I come home, I check in on them, and then I go off and do something again.
Say, all right, you're doing good. I'm out.
Right. So I'll be doing that Alaska cruise, and then my husband will be meeting me out there, and we're going to be road tripping.
That's right.
Alaska and the Yukon. So that'll be a new.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love it. Oh, Rose, what a wonderful world, right? Enjoy, have a good time.
It's a big world.
But we're all connected, and it's really small at the same time. And that's the beauty of travel.
Yes.
It is. So looking forward to your pictures. I'm going to be following this. I cannot wait. So everyone, again, quiltripping.com is the website. We are here every second Thursday with Rose, and it is always good fun. Thank you for joining us for Quilt Tripping Travel with Rose, a Big Blend radio podcast featuring award-winning travel writer and photographer Rose Palmer. Join us for new episodes every second Thursday, and keep up with Rose at quiltripping.com and follow us at bigblendradio.com.